Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see the slides. Hope you can hear my voice. Welcome all, welcome one and all. As I said, hope you can hear my voice. Hope you can see the slides. Welcome here for Wednesday, 27th of May. Daily market update. For those joining us for the first time, it's literally just a 20-25 minute sprint through what's gone on in the last 24 hours or so. Also what is going on in one or two maybe sectors or stocks that might be of interest, and a little look to see what, if anything, is setting up for the US session. You're all very welcome, and just remember that all information provided is for educational purposes only. Trading on margin carries a high level of risk, and you should be aware of all the risks associated with margin trading. So where did I think we'd start today? I thought we'd have a little look at Apple here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the daily chart of Apple. As always, a caveat this with these things, I don't in any way purport to be an equity specialist. I'm purely a trader, just looking at this from a technical analysis on the chart to be able to sort of make decisions and provide a little bit of insight based on what we're going through at the moment. Just look at that. Apple was getting back up to where it was for its pre-COVID highs. There you can see there. I myself am surprised by this. I wasn't really expecting this myself. I thought that I think, as I've said when we looked at this, over the last couple of months, is that I didn't think that Apple would come back as strongly, because I just didn't think that there would be people wanting to go out and buy Apple phones and stuff. However, that bit is actually true. That if you look at it, I think their phone sales have dropped, but actually what has done well for them during this period has been, of course, the subscription sales to their their burgeoning kind of like TV, and then also kind of music and things like iPads and probably iWatches as well and stuff. So the subscription services have bailed them out, so to speak, and you can see for yourself there that it's back up there around about 320, which is it's a great that's a great recovery and stuff. So there's also been that element we talked about over the last few months about how the Nasdaq has been leading the way in the US Indies, and within the Nasdaq there have been a few of the big major tech stocks where companies and countries, as we discussed yesterday, have just piled into a few of the big name tech stocks, and Apple will undoubtedly have been one of them. So you can see what's going on there. So you can see what's going on there. Will that continue? Good question, moot point, isn't it? I would suggest, looking at the markets, that we are starting to move back to a version of normality. I don't think anyone call it pre-COVID normality, but I think we're moving back to a version of it, and increasingly certainly in the West here, as we're seeing the lowering of both infection rates and death rates, okay, and as economies are slowly starting to open up, I think that as having an impact on markets. There's that bit of a relief rally, but we've talked about that for the last month. So so we'll just see whether Apple can continue that. It's in a nice upwards channel at the moment. Who did I put in next then? Costco. So this is an interesting one I want to look, because I think they've got their earnings coming out not today, certainly this week. Some of you will be well aware of Costco, the big kind of a wholesaler. Some of you may not have never heard of them. I was in one a few weeks back, okay, and I'm just looking at the share price here. It's kind of it's a bit interesting daily chart, okay. You can see it's been pretty random, hasn't it? It really has been in that range between about 325 and 280. Okay, and it's just bounced back and forth, and it's kind of settled just above 300, about 305. And it's kind of interesting. I said I went to Costco a few weeks ago. It was busy, which is probably good for Costco, not great for me. I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. And but and people weren't really social distancing in the proper way. That has more to do with people's behavior than I can't necessarily blame Costco for that. However, I would have thought that actually they would have been doing better than they have been, okay, that in the sense that people have just been topping up. Certainly, if you've needed fuel, when I went there certainly seemed to be people still queuing to fill up their cars at Costco here in the UK. It might be different in other parts of Europe and the US, but I'm just looking at that. As I said, it's just holding above that line about 300, 305, isn't it? It's not really terribly exciting. You might say, if of let's get the drawing tool out. You might particularly say that it's coiling up. All right, you could say, well, all right, Paul, it's coiling up there. Okay, there is a supporting supporting trend line there, as opposed to maybe a bit of a kind of a not as a clear one there, but there's a supporting trend line there. Maybe that's just going to hold it above 300. You might say, well, Paul, before COVID it was only at 325. It's at 305. It's only dropped $20, which I suppose, you'd probably be saying fair enough. If probably a lot of people would take that pre-COVID if they knew what was going to happen, and basically certainly looking at some of the way the other share prices have moved. But yeah, you can see there it's just kind of coiling up in a bit of a wedge there. So could it actually shoot back up? Will there be a huge buying spree in Costco after lockdown has been followed? I'm not so sure. If you've got any thoughts or ideas on that, then I'm happy to hear it. I would just see that's a bit becalmed at the moment, a bit becalmed at about 300, 305, and I would just wait and watch and see. So what goes on. Let's have a look at his next. So this is an interesting one. So this is Jets. This is an ETF for the aviation sector. And this is kind of maybe giving a hint as to where maybe there is a little bit of a relief rally going on. You've heard me talk about airlines. You've talked me about aviation manufacturers. We've talked about aviation companies. We've talked about things like Rolls-Royce, engine providers. Okay, and it was a pretty torrid affair. And you can see from the ETF here. Now, if you look at the ETF, all right. So really, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it wasn't actually doing a massive amount there, really. Okay, I'd say it was just bouncing between about 28 and 32. If you're a range trader, fantastic. You could have done well on that, but not unsurprisingly, we've gone from 32 down to 11 here again. That was quite some collapse, wasn't it? If you'd been able to short that, that's cracking short. But what I see here myself at the moment is I see that as there was a little bit of a kind of a descending triangle there after the end of a downtrend. Okay, certainly it retapped those lows between 11 and 12. It's come back, and yesterday we had a bit of a sort of a kind of a bumping gap up. All right, we're now trading about 15, 31. So, is that a hint that there's a relief rally in place when even the aviation sector has a little bit of a bump? I think this would be one to add to your watch list. This is just one little bump. One swallow doesn't make a summer and all that. But that's a kind of a hint that there's positivity. Okay, there's a bit of a relief rally going on in place. So yeah, you might want to add that and just see how that plays out. And then, finally for stocks and sectors today at Netflix, which is, as I say, it's just maybe as I said, it's building up the picture that relief rally is in play. Okay, and then we're getting towards the end of this. So you can see what we have. We've talked about this a fair amount. Okay, right, 390 it was pre-COVID, dropped down to 290, lost $100 there after what had been a pretty good uptrend, right? But you can see from there, from 290, it rallied there to 450. There in a short space of time between mid-March and mid-April. That was some kind of rally. I think we talked about it around about here. I think about 350. So if any of you put your money where your mouth is and cracked into that, well then fair play to you. But what we have seen, what I've noticed is that kind of last week we had a bit of a false breakout of that 450 level. And actually, we've had a pretty significant sell-off. All right, pretty significant sell-off. We're back down here, okay, yesterday, having dropped from about 455 down to about 415. So we've lost $40 there, okay, in the last 4 or 5 trading sessions. Is this, as I say, another sign that Netflix and chill is done for? All right, in the COVID times, okay, is that it all done and dusted? So this is what we're looking at. Okay, so it's I wouldn't be a buyer of Netflix. I'd say that momentum is down there, and you're really looking, is it going to tap these recent kind of highs and lows around about the kind of 390 to 400 area? So if you're a short-term trader, you might be looking at like maybe a pullback back down to 400 if you're a short-term momentum trader. But yeah, I think maybe this is an indication that that yeah, everybody's going back to work one way or another, unless you're a Scouse teacher. But nothing new there. But anyway, so that's the case that you can see there. All right, Netflix. So let's just go and have a look at some of the main indices. So just bear with us a second. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, if I don't consider myself an equity specialist, but and if there's something you want me to have a little look at, then give me a shout. I'm very happy to add it to the list. Everyone likes having a look at something a bit different, something a bit esoteric. So as I said, we just talked a little bit about, people are going back to work. It's a bit of a relief rally. And, I'd say maybe that's what we're seeing following through in certainly in the US indices and the European indices. Okay. So daily charts here, US indices, Dow top left, Russell top right, S&P 500, okay, bottom right, and Nasdaq bottom left. And as we just looked at Apple and Netflix, you can see if you look at where basically that is, okay, we're looking at looking at Nasdaq, broke out of that through, and it's back up into this area here. Okay, it's getting back, nudging its way back up towards those pre-COVID highs. I mean, that is a V recovery. That's a V-shaped recovery there. Okay, in tech stocks, but as I said yesterday, this is the difference between the Nasdaq and the main economy. Okay, I don't foresee the main economy doing the similar performance there. That, as we said, lots of money has poured into some of those big US tech stocks that have dragged it north. Right, we mentioned yesterday about how China and Saudi Arabia are using their money, and I'm sure others, Swiss National Bank, lots of others are basically just creating money and just basically using it to buy US tech stocks, and that is just that's what we're seeing reflected in that US index there. But if we go down, let's take them down to the hourly charts here. It's been pretty bullish. Okay, we talked the other day. Here we go. Let's have a look at the S&P 500 again. I talked yesterday about how we wanted to see, wanted to see the sort of S&P 500 finishing the week above 3,000. Yesterday we got back up above it. We had a nice drop off there towards the end of the session there, kind of a bit of a false breakout, drop beneath. But actually, in the pre-session, you can see yourself. There's been that kind of euphoria, optimism, whatever you want to call it, that is rallying us up there. So we've got what day is it today? It's Wednesday, isn't it? So we've got a couple of days left till the end of the week and also the end of the month, and that'll be interesting to see whether we can finish out the week and the month above 3,000. So I'll be keeping an eye on the S&P 500 there, and that kind of optimism has kind of played through into the European indices as well. We have a look there, bring these up, we can see that it's kind of like DAX and some of the others have, here we go, DAX has that's just been great. From last week dipping beneath 11,000, right? It's above it and it's rallying up, and we can see this morning it's it's rallied strongly. Okay, it's been just battering its way there. Okay, and it's not as returned as fast as the Nasdaq, but it is still it's still grinding its way back up there. Okay, and I'll be looking here around about 12,000 to the daily 200s there. Okay, there's a couple of trend lines there. Daily 12,000. Okay, you'd be looking to see is that going to now just drift and drag it up like a magnet up towards there. Footsie, Footsie has been doing the same. Okay, it's staying above 6,000. We've had a sell-off yesterday. We've had a rally this morning. Okay, you can see that for yourself on the hourly chart. We're up there at previous days highs. See how that is, and you can see here, the CAC. Okay, the IBEX, okay, the MIB, all right, the Euro Stocks 50, they've all been rallied. I'm not sure what's going on in the bund there. The bund has just shit the bed, but you can look at just that optimism there. Okay, money is just plowing out bonds and into those European stocks. Probably part of it is also an element of what the Miss von der Leyen said. Okay, I think they're looking to maybe looking to borrow, what was it, 500 billion euros for recovery, and I'll be interested to see where that money goes. Your bet is as good as mine where that money ends up, but yeah, that kind of, it's all this kind of optimism that the world is getting ready to open again. And with that in mind, I thought I'd also have a little look at, we've not looked at it for a while, some of the emerging market currencies, because it's, yeah, that's been quite fascinating as well. So we had a look at these a while back, I think, but there's been a fair bit of change. Let's have a look at Brazil, all right, because Brazil at the moment has, is, I think, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that, Brazil has been struggling in terms of, numbers of infection rates and deaths has been pretty torrid. But if you look at is it Bovespa, the Brazilian index, it's certainly, it's not coming back anywhere near as much as the Americans or the Indies. But despite all that, it is actually just trucking its way north, and I would see that as a bit of a double bottom there. Okay, it's just broken there, and you'd be looking to see, well, okay, there's lots of gaps here, lots of gaps up here towards 10,000. Does it have enough to get its way up at least to about 9,000, hit the 50? All right, you'd be looking at, even though the numbers there, it's at the moment it's not coming back as fast as the others because of elements within Brazil, but it's, there's certainly, there's a reversal pattern there in play that's building there. So I appreciate that's not an emerging market currency, but it's part of there. So I just thought I'd look at it. But if we look at the dollar against the Brazilian real, right, this gives an indication of the sort of dollar strength. So you can see for yourself, it was one-way traffic. Okay, we talked about this plenty of times, right, this year, about how you're struggling, okay, with dollar strength and emerging market currencies. But you can see for yourself, that's the daily chart, we've had a little bit of a change over the last 2 weeks. Okay, we've topped out, bit of a nice false breakout, key reversal candle there, and actually, we've come away. All right, we've come away, and we're back down to the 50. And actually, we're just yesterday's session, we traded beneath and closed beneath the 50, which is we've not really done since January. Okay, so you can see, if you had been buying dollar and shorting Brazilian real, you've done very, very well. But that I would say that run is over. Okay, at the moment, that's a case. And what I'd be looking at now is kind of just saying, well, could it actually come back up to this, where would be the 20, and then you'd be looking at, maybe, is that like a part of a bigger Head and Shoulders, that could it roll over on the longer the kind of longer elements of it. Okay. So Jada, who's one of our Brazilian guests, says the number of people dying from COVID has been increasing. However, the political scenario is bad and has been improving a bit on the last couple of days. Okay, right. Thanks for that, Jada. Thanks for the insight. But yeah, as I said, I'll be looking at, could that form a Head and Shoulders pattern there? That's what I'd be just keeping my eye on there for that at the moment. And and if we look at it compared to how the dollar's doing against other of those emerging market currencies, if we look at dollar against the peso, all right, we can see, you talked about it, all right, earlier in the year about this is the monthly chart here, how much it popped up and dropped. If you look down to the weekly, a bit messy, but there's still that kind of big weekly engulfing candle, key reversal candle there. And going to the daily, yeah, it was a bit messy, but you can see that has effectively topped out, hasn't it? I think we might have talked about it and stuff, just looking at it as a bit of a kind of a pattern that's just rolled over there. Okay, it's rolled over. That's just giving an indication of some dollar weakness against those emerging market currencies. Even against the Turkish Lira, this is the weekly chart. Okay, it's just Turkish Lira. You can see for yourself. All right, that's a weekly chart. That was just a great trade. All right, basically sell the Turkish Lira, buy the US dollar. But I think that's over for the moment. You can see that actually it kind of tried to play out. Okay, a bit of a false breakout of the previous high from 2018. And if I go down to the daily chart, yep, false breakout, and then bosh, once again dropped down beneath the 50. First time beneath the 50 for a long time. Okay, good 6 months or so. And once again, I'd be saying, well, could it just pop up there to about that 6.89, 69 there? That's what I'd be looking there to see if that could happen. And is there another one? Yeah, even the South African rand. All right, even the South African rand, which has been, battered. All right, battered over the last few years. Okay, if you look at that on the weekly chart, it's not particularly pretty there, but you can still see, if I go down to the daily on it. All right, okay, that it just effectively of a sort of a double top, but then you've had the 20-period moving average acting as dynamic resistance, the 50 is support, and then it's squeezed. Okay, that's what's drawing here. Okay, we've just had a little bit of a squeeze there. All right, and then bosh, it's just dropped. Okay, down beneath those recent highs, and now so we're back down. So now you're looking down back towards maybe 16. Could that work out like that? So the kind of message is clear there, is that the dollar has been weakening against the majority of those emerging market currencies. And what we had it this morning. If I just look to the dollar index itself, okay, we've talked a long time about how it bounced off this trend line. And yesterday it was here, but we saw it actually came back down past it yesterday, came back up to it to test it, and then we had a big dollar drop this morning. I don't know if any of you were long dollar this morning. You might have got a bit of a slap in the chops there. Okay, so you can just see there was a big dollar dump there. Okay, and whether that's just a case of dumping dollar, moving into Europe as the EU decides what to do, to outlay the plans for their recovery. It could be that, could be many other reasons, but we've seen now a real dollar dump there, and we're breaking that trend line. Okay, and now I'll be looking at, well, could it get down to the 200 there, about 98.30? Okay, is this a case of this is a lower high and we're drifting our way down? But if we look at some of the other, we look at, we talked about dollar against Canadian dollar yesterday. I remember I was saying it was just like testing that line, and actually it blew through it. Okay, bosh, just blew through it. Okay, and has continued. So dollar against Canadian has weakened. Aussie had a bit of a rally this morning. Okay, the only thing that didn't is against Japanese yen. Sort of risk on. We've got risk on plays there, but euro dollar. All right, you can see for yourself there, when the dollar index is dumping like that, you can expect the euro to rally up against the dollar there. Okay, so we're back up above 110 there on the euro dollar. Cable was drifting down this morning, but it's popped up, and I'm just wondering, is that going to now form as an evening star? I might kind of miss the chance there to be short. Now let's just I'll be watching that this afternoon anyway. Let's finish off with the euro for a change, shall we? Just because I said they've been having their nice chats there today across, and let's put all these across onto the hour. So let's just. Yeah, so here what we can see is effectively, as you can undoubtedly see it yourself. All right, I'm just switching these all to the hourly charts. There's basically the euro is rallying strongly there. Okay, even against the risk-on currencies of the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Canadian, it's just a rallied hard against the sterling, the dollar, the yen, the Swiss franc there. Okay, and kind of curious because interesting, that's probably helped out the Swiss, because the Swiss they've been defending 105, but there was rumours that they just weren't going to let them. We're going to let it drift down to parity, but bosh. The Europeans have come to the rescue there, okay, to help the Swissies out there. So I'm sure the Swiss National Bank will send the lads in ECB a nice case of Toblerone to thank them for that. But clearly it's a strong euro day there, okay. So well done if you traded through that. So it's so there you go. All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Fast and furious, as always. As I say, it's a bit of a sprint through, just giving you a bit of insight into what's going on. As always, I wish you the best of success in your own trading. Be interesting to see what the play through this afternoon is in those US indices, and also with continued euro strength, and if we did get continued dollar weakness. So just keep an eye on that. And as always, manage your risk accordingly, and I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, same link, and I'll speak to you then. Trade well, everybody. Cheers.